Welcome to the very first painting and the very first video in my major Arcana series. I'm so excited. Words do not even describe, because I have dreamed for like 5 years of creating my own tarot deck. I wanted to paint and illustrate the whole thing and write the book, and I wanted to document the whole process and be it more of like a group conversation. This card tackles questions that I've heard the most as an artist, like how do I start selling my art? How do I start creating art that is authentically my style? When do I know when my creations are good enough to be released? What if I try my best to express myself or have a new start and I fall flat and it just doesn't work? The Fool is seen as this kind of like trickster who goes against the grain, even starting with the fact that the Fool, the card is card 0. 0 actually speaks to infinite creative potential. So I find it to be like a funny humor, a juxtaposition, an irony, if you will, that the Fool has this very lighthearted, fun, youthful energy. But that to me has more to do with having a levity, a lightness, or a sense of humbleness in the face of adversity. I think this is the deeper commentary about this card. At the most simplest, if I were to sum it up, like right from the get-go, I think the Fool has to do with having a sense of humor, a sense of youthfulness, a sense of humility in the face of challenge. Like, that's the thing about this, is she's going up against like these tumultuous mountains that really symbolize life can be challenging. There are going to be experiences that test you where you're not equipped for them, where you are a bit naive. But it's not really about age with this card as much as it is a way of carrying oneself. To be able to walk into challenges with a sense of humility and open-mindedness. I bring up artists because so often they're in these positions where they have to self-reinvent, they have to start over, they have to do this soul searching over and over and over again. I'm really a firm believer that trying new things, broadening your horizons, like me doing multiple mediums, like trying multiple things, actually I think was very helpful for me in a growth sense, because if you get too cozy, you start thinking like you've made it or you know everything, you start to get a big head. And I do think the Fool is so relevant to creatives or artists, because artists are very good at putting themselves into uncomfortable circumstances. Like, who would do that on purpose? Like, not to be like that, but I love being an artist. I'm glad I did it. But there are a lot of things that are very, very uncomfortable about having that for a job. But it's actually very growth inducing. I'm doing it because I'm getting something out of it that betters me as a person. And that actually isn't always very gratifying in an instantaneous sense. The Fool is connected to Aries. There's something a bit childish, spontaneous, like quick about it, where it wants gratification now. This is where you start running into issues with the Fool and you start having problems, and we start getting into the realm of art block. Here's the thing, once you release your creations into the wild, they're no longer just yours, and there's something vulnerable, scary, and out of control about that. To see something you've idealized now subject to public opinion, tribulations, and constraints of real life, that sends a shiver down my spine. If you've had a particularly mighty fall from grace where you took a leap off a cliff and did not find a nice cushy mattress at the bottom, it can make you a little bit trigger shy, where when you go to start something new, you are not as cozy with the new start as you once were. A lot of artists deal with this, and sometimes even after extreme successes. Imagine, for example, a writer who put out a book that was so well received, so popular, got so much acclaim, and it was such a high success for them that when they went to go start their next creation, they were so intimidated that they could never meet the heights and could never release anything again. Being a creative person is a very sensitive experience. It can almost feel safer for some ideas to stay trapped within the confines of my sketchbook, or worse, like my head. And it becomes this repeating call that I just keep hearing and I'm evading. Creatives know this uncertainty intimately. It's almost safer for the concept to stay abstract, vague, in an unreachable tower. I had to address this about myself, is sometimes I was making my projects more complicated, more convoluted, more stressful. I was heightening these stakes so much in this like almost false excuse of perfectionism or wanting to reach a certain standard, when it really was just avoidance of doing the thing altogether. If the concept stayed abstract, if it stayed convoluted, then I wouldn't actually have to come to terms with the realities of what I wanted to do. I've been this kind of artist a lot over this project, going on and on of grand ideas I'll be getting to eventually, I promise. But never quite being able to scale the height of self-imposed expectations. So these ideas would just never get realized, swinging from extremes of doing entirely too much too soon or not nearly enough for long at all. And this is the portrait of a Fool reversed. Timid, trigger shy, and insecure, picking ill-advised adventures with naive, bold excitement. Honestly, I spent most of my time painting the Fool, feeling as if my inner Fool had been stuck in reverse for quite a while before I even began painting. This is not to say I did not have fun painting. It was the most fun I had creating in a long time, which feels like two very antithetical statements to say one right after the other. I touched on this with like the spontaneous trickster energy associated with the Fool, but I'd like to make a point that with this card, it's ruled by Uranus. That's its planetary ruler. So the Fool is no doubt a bright, fun card that speaks to change and adventure, but what the Fool isn't is predictable. The Fool is a disruptor, a joker, rebellious by nature. There was a very clear polarity I wanted to capture in the color and composition choices. This is, in fact, the wild card of the tarot, and I wanted you to feel the unpredictability of the landscape. There was something palpably electric and on-off about the whole project. When I was feeling the painting, I would just sink into the process, and then sudden as a lightning strike, all of the spark would be gone. I mean, suffice it to say, almost nothing originally planned happened in the ways that I preconceived it. Painting this was a practical joke, but the Fool is a joker, so I feel like I walked in on that. Right there in the uncertainty of it all is where I found the beauty of the Fool. Anything could happen is equally exciting as it is humbling. So as far as like the main composition choices, I based a lot of that off of the Rider-Waite edition of the tarot. We're gonna start ranting now. I'm gonna get on my soapbox. You have been warned. If you don't have your beverage, you need to get it now. I have a personal qualm with the creators of tarot decks who make the most abstract random shit. And I mean that so kindly because like I love a pretty deck. I love a pretty deck just like everybody else. But when you're just starting to read tarot, or I don't know, maybe you're just like a visual learner like me, I'm an artist, everything's visual for me. If it doesn't physically make sense from a visual perspective, like when I'm reading your deck, I shouldn't have to read the entire book to understand what you're saying. I would prefer it if your art is actually relevant to the meanings of the card. I want you, whether you have a print of this piece in your house or you're pulling it in a tarot deck that I create in the future, it has a very clear understanding, very clear meaning that you get the vibe that I'm putting down just directly from what it looks like. I wanted to retain a lot of the typical motifs you would associate with a tarot deck or with a Rider-Waite. The Fool is a person who is young and innocent, showing up in clothes not quite suited for the journey. She's carefree and soft, hair windblown, eyes closed, and seemingly oblivious to the apparent danger ahead. She's likely to walk right off a cliff on faith alone, symbolized by the dove at her ear and the white flower in her hand. As we've slipped deeper into the Fool as a character, you're probably starting to see that she's not really a very experienced or qualified candidate. But here's the thing. What the Fool lacks in maturity, they make up for in momentum. Like while other people are, finicking at the start line, messing around with their supplies, making excuses, the Fool is already long gone, out to get their hands dirty. They're flexible and light on their feet. In this sense, the Fool is an attitude or a way of carrying oneself into the inevitability and unpredictabilities of change. This card so poignantly addresses imposter syndrome, something I see so many creatives and artists battle with. Some will set their aspirations so high that they become immobilized by pressure that's often self-created. These are usually well-intentioned perfectionists that appear unreasonably put together. So upon seeing one in action, you might ask, why would they do that? Because why would you get fickle right when it's getting good? Well, the nice answer is you would do that to protect yourself. The harsh answer is so that you have a good excuse later to quit before even beginning, ideally in private, so no one catches you being the master of your own demise outside in broad daylight. And you know what? We've all been there. The second type overcompensates by making ill-advised, impulsive decisions while clearly unprepared and ignoring sage advice. Just sends it in hopes for the best. Many of these fools are picking stupid battles to distract themselves from how impossibly ill-equipped they feel. They're very reactive. The idea is if you're constantly doing wild shit, you won't have time to get stressed about the fact that you don't know where the hell you're going. Maybe in this case, you don't even have access to sage advice, and you're just trying to cope by presenting like you've got it handled. Meanwhile, the situation spirals wildly out of hand. If you've been watching House of the Dragon, if you saw that last year, Aegon's character arc in season 2 would be a really extreme, really mean example of a full reverse where it ends quite badly. But that's it. I mean, if you've seen it, you know. If you've seen it, you know. Okay, well, now that I've adequately roasted you all and psychoanalyzed your internal motivations as to why you're procrastinating doing that thing, and even compared a couple of you to Aegon from Game of Thrones. You can leave a nasty comment, or healthy fools know how to start quickly and how to start when the fear is small. But there's also a wisdom and humbleness in sensing when to start, when to act. They're led by intuition rather than experience. Not knowing is only really a problem if you're not listening. And that's why I chose her companion as a dove. Doves represent peace, freedom, transformation, and love, which is a healthy fool's internal motivations. I wanted a bird flying by her ears, speaking to her in reference to the card's connection to the element of air. In fact, everything about the drawing style was meant to have an airy, light feeling. To begin fresh with a youthful spirit in the face of challenge is an attitude, it's a mindset, it's a practice, not a one-time event. It is not a passing idea, but an energy that you walk in because it's a repetitive occurrence in every journey, regardless of age or experience. The chances are you'll have to begin again, even if you find yourself now an expert. There was still a time when you were a fool. The Fool reminds us that no matter what we've seen, the world is so big and we are so young in the greater scheme of the universe. And we do so much better when we release control and take on a challenge with humor, levity, and an open heart, knowing that there are some places that no map can take you. So, you've made it to the after party portion of this video where I'm just gonna briefly talk about some additional thoughts I didn't get to. One of the things that I realized is I did not film nearly enough. When I go to the magician, I'm probably gonna be a little bit more aggressive about my filming, because when I actually cut this down, I was like, there's not much here. I'm not used to making YouTube videos. I did like a couple of vlogs and they actually took the life out of me, and I had horrible audio. As you could see, we have decent audio today. Wait a minute, hold on. I don't know, I just thought it would be funny if I put it on a paintbrush. Oh my god. To my Astro girlies in the chat, some interesting things were happening during the process of this video. Like, I started painting during the Uranus-Jupiter conjunction in like May that was in Taurus. So the fact that this painting has Uranus as a planetary ruler is really funny to me, because it was a Uranus conjunction that initiated me painting it. Fun facts. Also, I painted it basically the entire time while North Node was in Aries with Chiron, and I feel like that really speaks to a lot of themes that came up. Chiron in Aries has a lot of undertones that are very full reverse. There's a lot of crossover in my mind, but it's just collectively us trying to find leadership, like confidence, the ability to start a new thing, to self-initiate, to pioneer in some way, like we talked about through this whole card, and finding like up against a lot of insecurity. Like Chiron could be a wound or a really sensitive spot, a pain point. So it's like everyone wants to find this like inner leader or this inner fire, or start this new journey that they feel like personally, like a personal conviction to go on, and yet there's this giant wound or this giant blockage in the way, or giant pain that you just can't seem to get around. That's what I would kind of describe it as. And I think painting this painting during this time, like working on this painting during this transit, was very eye-opening. The way I treat creating and how it works for me. That's a weird one, but like creating can be such a healing thing, but also how painful it can be to start things, especially if you don't feel the confidence or the like self-initiative. Anyways, wherever you are, I personally encourage you that if you have this inner calling to go do a thing, if you're like, I have to go do this, but you keep letting like your fears, your phobias, your anxieties, your pain, like to get in the way of doing the thing, go do the thing. Go do it. Allow me to be your messenger. Allow me to bring this beautiful 0-degree Aries North Node energy to your sphere today. This is why I love selling in person, like at markets or events, is because I get to have like one-on-one conversations with people where I get to talk to people about my art. But it's really just like a mode to talk to people about all kinds of things, like really how they're feeling, what's going on, their beliefs about life, their desires, their creative impulses. Like all of these are really compelling conversations for me, and I would love to have a little bit more harmony where I'm experiencing that online as well as in person. Anyways, I'm making more videos. Okay, that's the point. I'm doing the magician next. I am doing them in order so far. I have a tendency to change my mind, but I'm trying to be organized, at least at the beginning. God help me. But magician's next. I am painting a man. This was not mentioned in the video, but I did a girl because it's easier to start with what you know. Okay, like I don't know what to tell you. It's just easier for me. I don't like painting men. It's very hard for me, but I'm working on it. And the project that I'm working on right now is actually Eros and Psyche, which is like the myth of Cupid. And I want to do something mythology oriented and kind of astrology-ish, and also kind of Valentine's Day cutesy. So we landed on Eros and Psyche. Another reason why I chose Eros and Psyche is because, okay, I got really into Akatar series, and like there are things I like about it and things I don't like about it, but like the core basis of it just really reminds me of Eros and Psyche. Like it's just Eros and Psyche. I really don't need to explain more. If you've read it and you know about the myth of Eros and Psyche, you're gonna watch it and you're gonna be like, oh, oh. So I don't know. I'm like actually re-listening to it right now while I paint it, and it's really funny. So watch out for that. I am creating a Valentine's Day collection. It's very Venus and Pisces. It's very Eros and Psyche. All the things. I'm filming it. I will share it with you. And there's all kinds of new things coming. So yeah, if you would like a print or a sticker of the full card, they are on my website. Link below. I have hollow prints that are mini prints. I have a couple limited edition hand gilded ones that are very similar to the original. They're the same size as the original, hand embellished, the whole vibe. The original has already sold though, so I didn't make the video quick enough. I'm sorry, I sold it before I made the video. That's how much I procrastinated. I might have more footage if I filmed more before I sold it. But we live and we learn. We're all a fool sometimes. And when I was in the editing process, I was editing this yesterday and I came to a rude awakening that what I imagined I had filmed and what I had actually filmed were two totally separate things. And I will keep that in mind next time for The Magician. See you whenever I see you again, whenever I finish the next project, which hopefully is not 2 years from now. This on a paintbrush is just so funny to me. I'm still there. I haven't left. You probably can't hear me because I moved away. Is this not hilarious? I feel like I'm carrying a magic wand that produces wireless audio.